Just gotta defend myself. Because they want to kill me. They're coming. And you know what? I don't know why, but also, I don't much care.
I'm playing an Arab refugee, but I identify as white. I think that's problematic too, in some way.
You wanted it to be real, so you decided it was.
So we have The Hunt. Funny enough, The Hunt was actually supposed to come out last year in September. And I wondered what the hell happened to it. Like, the original trailers all were like, all right, the end of this year. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm down to see it. Months went by. It just kind of fell out of my mind. And then it wasn't until all of a sudden I saw posters pop back up. And it was like, all right, coming out in March. I'm like, March? And I look. And the posters changed, the marketing changed. Like, it showed September crossed out March instead. And all the reviews from people so far about the movie, how heinous it was, how despicable, how politically incorrect and all this. I was like, okay, I see what happened. So if I had, now I haven't done my research, and I'll gladly throw up an article or something explaining why in a second. If I had to guess, maybe it got pushed back, or they had to cut some stuff out because it was found to be NC-17. Maybe they had to make some edits. Something happened in post-production where they had to delay the release of the film, maybe after the reviews came out too. And then whether it was a decision they were forced to make or a marketing one, because then they remarketed it, gave it a new poster, and they were like, The Hunt. See what, basically they used the negative marketing to their advantage, which is stuff that like Deadpool did it in the past. Other movies have done it. Movies that are self-aware enough to the point where they know that it's going to be a very controversial film, they'll not only recognize that fact, they'll point it out, and they'll use it to their advantage, which I think The Hunt did a great job of using all the negative, all the publicity in general, really, to help further push the film. So it's like the film everyone's talking about. Overall, The Hunt, I actually really enjoyed The Hunt. The reviews have been so mixed, and a lot of negative reviews too. People being like they've missed the mark on their social commentary, and it's like, I'm not sure that's 100% what the film is necessarily trying to go for here. Overall, the film was just a really fun time. Like, it could have been a lot worse, but from beginning to end, I was thoroughly engaged. I was really curious to see where it would go. The film could have pushed the envelope more, and I feel like it didn't. Like, I've seen parody movies like Scary Movie, Disaster Movie, the classics. I've seen those that push the envelope even further with way more inappropriate comedy, way more intense political satire, and different topics that are brought up to turn some heads and get some clicks and all that. I felt like this movie was kind of restraining itself in a weird way, which maybe it was worse and they had to pull back. Like, don't get me wrong, this film is filled with all the usual marks of a hard R film. It has plenty of profanity, plenty of violence, lots of people getting shot, arrows in them, throats slashed, heads blown the fuck off, people being impaled. That's about it, honestly. There were actually, I was a little bit more surprised there weren't a lot of creative deaths. I mean, people exploded too, but like, I don't know, like there were some creative moments of injury where people got hurt in sort of creative ways. If you've seen the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was intense and it was a hard R, but I was surprised that, like, you know, other movies have gone harder. But let me get down to the specifics. I'm going to just kind of bullet point them real quick. Director is Craig Zobel, I believe is how I'm not sure how you say his name, to be frank. The only thing you would really know him from is a movie he did some years ago called Compliance. There's other films that he did too, but Compliance is the big one. But he does a great job with the film. I thought it was directed well. I could tell there were a few parts where action got a little bit shaky, but overall it was very, like, easy to follow. It was all, you know, colors all worked well for it. It was much, you're in the woods mostly, but, you know, there's some, like, other settings that are used to, both modern and rustic, and it's all handled very well visually. No complaints there. The cast, there's actually quite a large cast of people, because, I mean, the whole premise of this is that it's a dozen people that wake up in this clearing and then are slowly hunted. That's the whole, I never said that, but that's the premise of The Hunt, is that's what happens. So, funny enough, it's actually a bunch of, like, right-wing like either rednecks or conservatives or people that are like, don't take my guns, or, oh, white power, white power. I mean, not, they don't all have accents. Some of them are very like, oh, well, I seem like a normal guy, but I'm actually a headhunter and I kill rhino. And it was interesting. Like, because a lot of people in my generation, around my age range, like mid to late 20s, and also people that are my age and very, very, very liberal and left-leaning, always have this whole eat the rich mentality where they're like, oh, you just get rid of the 1%, get rid of the 1% and like down with these classes and all this. And so in a way, this movie's like a wet dream for a lot of my liberal friends. Because there's some of them out there that are like, yeah, that's probably what they would do. 100%, the biggest standout. I mean, yeah, sure, Hillary Swank's in it, but this Betty Gilpin, I think it's Gilpin. Dude, this chick nails this role. She is an absolute treasure to watch on screen. I laughed so hard at so many of her lines. She does a great job. She's the best part of the film, in my opinion. She's phenomenal. Now, granted, all the little pop-ups here and there, like all these other, there's a lot of like big names in this movie, and they all do a great job, and they're very entertaining, and they either are great at playing some like redneck asshole or some fascist this or some like poor soul that gets his head blown off or some rich elitist who wants to like kill these people. Everybody does a great job with what they're given. I enjoyed how, although this movie got political, it didn't lean too far one way or the other. Like, granted, it kind of paints the liberal side of things as a little bit more sensitive and silly, but like this movie surprisingly did a good job of making fun of both sides, in my mind, kind of equally. Like both the right, the far right and the far left, I think like both got their fair jabs at one another. It raised some valid points and concerns on both sides. It pointed out stereotypes and either debunked some of them or validified others. And honestly, I felt like both sides of the political spectrum were both kind of taking some, shots fired on both sides. And I thought that, I lean more left. So even though there were a bunch of jokes at my detriment and like we were painted in a certain way for the movie, I still thought it like I still laughed. Like I'm a good sport. I was like, you know what? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, I get that. Really, my only complaints about this film were that I forgot how long it was. Hour 55. Yeah, for a movie almost 2 hours, it almost felt a little bit too quick. I kind of wanted to see more of the hunt going on. Granted, there were only 12 of them, sure, but I would have liked to have seen more of the hunt, and I guess I felt like maybe it's the mark of a good movie where a 2-hour movie feels like short and quick, because that just means like it keeps a pace going, or maybe it was a bit too quick. But for me, I think pacing, the pacing worked for the film, but personally I would have liked to see more of the hunt, because about a third to nearly a half of the primary like kills and action in the hunt were again spoiled by trailers and marketing, which I really wish hadn't, but there was still a solid third. Yeah, it's almost 50-50, but there's a solid, at least I would say 50+% that wasn't spoiled by trailers and marketing. That was definitely like all very much surprises and enjoyable. But it always bugs me when the marketing for a film just shows a little bit too much. Maybe they were just trying to show more so they could try to entice people more. I get that, but for me personally, I prefer the old, until the movie comes, tell us, don't show us. Be like, this is the movie, here's vaguely what it's about, and then you'll see the rest later. I will admit there were a few moments, especially toward the end, when the reasoning for what's happening kind of comes to light. Some of the political commentary and some of it was a little bit on the nose, and I think the overall reason for why everything in the movie is happening is so ridiculous and funny that for the sake of what the movie's trying to do, it works. I think in another movie if there was another movie that took itself more seriously than this one did, it would crash and burn, and it would be a stupid reason. But given the context and tone of this movie, the reasoning behind why all of this is happening is delightfully silly, and it works very well. But there was also like an Animal Farm metaphor that I wasn't a fond of. I was seeing what they did, and sure, it kind of works, but like I didn't need an Animal Farm metaphor. Just leave it out, maybe. But overall, I don't have too much negative to say about the film. Funny enough, I almost feel like I should. It's one of those situations where all the critics and everybody, like I think Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's sitting at like mid 50 percentile, and like even audience scores are barely touching 70%. So a lot of people either thought this movie was like above average, or a lot of critics were like, nah, pish posh, I say. But like, I really enjoyed it. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's my maybe it's because it hits my demographic right on the nail. But I don't know. Other movies have tried to do things similar to this and have done a terrible job. But I thought The Hunt did a fantastic job with its premise, and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Thought it was hilarious and a delightfully violent good time. Just a little bit of the old ultra violence. So, good time. Which means, overall, I think you know where I'm going with this one. I would give The Hunt, this is my personal review, a solid 4 out of 5. The Hunt, released in 2020. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I most likely will purchase it when it comes out. I might be in the minority on this. I don't know. There are some movies that I do like that a lot of people don't like, and vice versa. But again, it's my completely biased opinion on this movie that I saw in 2020, and here's my review of it. And with that, I say thank you guys and gals so much for watching. That was my review. Stay tuned for the next movie review that I do. And in the meantime, stop recording. And in the meantime, goodbye, travelers.